story in this city. An individual that has deep roots here makes a decision that something should be done, and then an organization like Manulife steps up to the plate, and here we go. So that's a fantastic honor. So now let's move into the panel discussion. We've got the last portion of our evening is an opportunity for Tim Spelliscy, Global Edmonton Station Manager and Regional Director for the Prairies. He's a fantastic guy. He's become a friend of mine over the years through our work on the Oilers Community Foundation. And he's going to lead the charge in terms of blistering questions to dig into what laureates are all about from the perspective of leadership, entrepreneurship, and business growth. So I'd like to welcome the inductees of the Hall of Fame, Chief Victor Buffalo, Tony Franceschini, John Love, representing his father, Don Love, Jerry Naqvi, and of course, Mr. Tim Spelliscy to the stage, who will take it over from here. Thank you.
Check. Is that working over there? It's working now. Thanks very much, Jared. I noticed there was one tweet saying, Jared is doing a great job tonight. I don't know much about Twitter, but I think that came from Jared's account. That's what it looked like. So nice work, Jared. Jared was talking about Harold Rosen, who was supposed to be the moderator here tonight with these, what I would call rock stars of our business community. But Harold, unfortunately, was called away, so it's a real pleasure and honor to fill in for my friend Harold, my former boss, and it's really great to be here to talk to these guys and spend some time with them on the stage. And we got a few questions. This is, as Jared said, is going to be the highlight of the night, so no pressure here. But first question's about risk, and Tony, I want to start with you. You know, your history as the leader of Stantec here in the city was something we read about in the Edmonton Journal. God, it seemed almost every week at that time. Acquisition, merger, acquisition. But when you look back at that time, what do you think was the greatest risk that you took? And is it even possible to isolate one risk, Tony?
Well, that's a good question, because I think we each go through several types of risks. And I think it's probably appropriate to talk about the personal risk that we took, and that was really coming to Edmonton. That was we left our family, our friends, our support network in Toronto, and we made a decision to come here, and we didn't know anybody. So that was a big personal risk. And then joining a company like Stanley at the time, which was just a small regional firm. And once we did that, we essentially had no support network and said, there was no chance of ever going back to Toronto. So that was a big personal risk. But if you're interested in sort of a company risk, I would say that we took a risk in entering the U.S. market. And it was something that you can imagine for a small firm. There were a lot of challenges, a lot of risks, a lot of financial risks. And it was easy in the first few years to decide to come back and not continue with it. And one of the things we did is that we just kept, in essence, we kept doubling down. So even though we had challenges, there were financial challenges, logistical challenges, but it took us about 10 years to finally say we built up the mass that allowed us to stay there. So that was probably the biggest risk, because it would have been easy to fail.
Great, thanks very much. Jerry, talk about risk and coming from somewhere else, and Jerry, great personal risk coming from Pakistan and coming to Edmonton, everything you've done here. And, I worked just a few blocks away from that place they call South Edmonton Common. And I can remember Jerry when it was going up, and I was thinking, okay, this is a little bit crazy, a little bit wild. But, I mean, as you look back, Jerry, was that the greatest risk, or was there something before or after that you think was riskier?
It was so risky that all my friends, and they found out that I bought that land from CP Rail. He said, I'm stupid, I'm crazy, I'm going to go bust. And but I didn't listen to anybody, except that when I go home and my wife said, you spend my children's inheritance, that was tough to take. But you know what? I don't take any answer. So I went ahead, starting to build a shopping center, and I just 2 years after that, I ran out of all the money I had. So I started to look around, and it just so happened to be that the royal family from England were also looking to invest somewhere. So they came in, they invested money with me, and we're starting to build again. So it was the biggest risk which I ever took. Now the same people, those who used to call me that crazy, stupid, and all that, I said, what a genius he is, what a vision. We knew he can do it. So that's the story of my life.
Great. Jerry, thanks very much. John, when you think about your father and I guess a risk he took, he had a nice, comfortable life working for Dominion Securities, starting up Oxford, but did he ever share with you? I'm sure he had a few thoughts about that. What was the greatest risk? Maybe it was just getting started, I'm not sure.
Well, there is a common theme. He tells a great story, and it relates back to relationships, which is what was sort of his key stock and trade. He was a stockbroker. At the end of his term here in Edmonton, he was doing very well. He had some clients say, we'd like to raise some money and build a medical clinic. He said, well, maybe I get that done. His largest client was E.E. Poole, the PCL fame. He said, well, maybe not me, but talk to my sons, John and George. So the three of them put a company together called Polo, P-O for pool and L-O for love. And they went ahead and built this clinic, sold it after it was finished, the Baker Clinic over on just a block off Jasper. And he told me, he said, I made $25,000. He said he just couldn't believe it. So that then, he quit being a broker, spawned Oxford, and the name Oxford came from, he thought he needed something a little bit more respectable, and he thought Oxford had significant substance.
Great, thanks very much, John. Victor, reading the history of your professional career, the things that you've done everything. You've been in a lot of industries, a lot of careers. So looking back at there, is there a change, a decision, a strategy that you took at one time that you look back now and say, this was my greatest risk?
You know, there is risk in everything. There was risk coming here tonight. But I've been involved in a lot of startup projects. Most of the things that we started on a First Nations community have been all startups because we don't have any models at this point in time to where we can emulate a lot of the business people that are here before you. So it's been challenging in that regard. But for me, the biggest risk I'm embarked upon at the present time is trading grain to the Chinese. And my nephew is out there today because he can wave Nori.
Where's the other waving?
Yeah, my nephew is Chinese. So my Mandarin is no good, so he's the only one that can help me out. And it's pretty hard to kick tire from Muscatisse to Beijing, so that's the risk.
Well, thanks very much. Now, gentlemen, that was the easy question. The next one's going to be tougher because as much as this is a group of very successful laureates, it's also a group of humble guys. And that's why I fit in, because I'm a humble guy. So we're all together here. Well, I want to ask you, and this is difficult, I know you might not be comfortable with it, but what do you think was your greatest achievement? And Joy, I want to start with you when you look back. So far, what do you think has been your greatest accomplishment, your greatest achievement?
Apart from the South Edmonton Common, which actually we are extremely proud of it, this was the accomplishment which I have, the real biggest one, that we raise really good children. They are educated, respectful, and they are all of them that work with me in the office. And they came into my office, joined me. My friend said to me, in this country, you don't bring your family into the company. And I said, well, where I come from, you bring your family into the company. So that has been my really big accomplishment. But at the same token, and I just want to thank some of the people, those who were instrumental bringing me to achieve my goal and my accomplishment. And the one which I really want to thank you is the Allard family. Cam Allard, Dr. Allard, here the one those who gave me a job. Cam Allard took me under his wing. He taught me everything which I knew, and he became my friend, and I'd like to thank him.
That's very nice of you. He's a great guy. That's why you named the company Cameron, probably after Cam. Victor, over to you. I mean, when you look at, you talked about the startups and the success stories you've been involved in. Is there one of those you can sit back and say, yeah, this was the most significant achievement?
Really, first of all, I want to congratulate the achievers that came on stage today. I wish I can take that kind of a program to the Native communities and start these businesses. But for me, the greatest achievement, I think, is starting our socio-economic development on our reserves in Musqueam and Hobbema, and starting schools. We didn't have schools until I became chief, and then set up an education trust so students can go on to university and become professional people. And that, to me, that's the greatest thing. That's what I enjoy the most, watching our young people go to school. And we're getting master's degrees, doctorate degrees, and on and on. And just, we need business people on the communities.
Yeah, that's an incredible achievement. That's remarkable. Congratulations on that. Tony, how about you? When you look back, there was a lot going on in that time at Stantec. Can you isolate one most significant achievement?
Well, just as Jerry said, this is obviously a two-part question because you can't start a discussion on this without saying that your greatest achievement is, at least in my case, was marrying Daniela, having 2 wonderful children, and 2 wonderful grandkids who bring unbelievable joy to our lives right now. So that's obviously number one. If you're interested in a business achievement, I would say that developing a vision and a strategy to make Stantec a top 10 global design firm. But more important, and we made some significant progress during my time as CEO. We went from 2,000 to 10,000 employees, and went from a market cap of 80 million to like 2 billion and so forth. But what I think was most important is that we also put a leadership succession plan in place so that there would continue to be progress on that vision, and not only on the vision, but to put individuals in place that would take the values and the philosophy of the company that were originally established by Dr. Stanley and then evolved by Ron Triffel, my predecessor, and continues today with our 4th CEO, Bob Gomes, who's our current CEO at Stantec. So I think not only doing something, but putting something in place that would last and sustain.
That's good. I was going to ask you if getting Bob Gomes on board was the greatest achievement, because Bob told me to ask that question, but I'm sure he's out there. Just kidding, Bob. He didn't say that. Yes, he did. I think this is a difficult question for the other three, and John, it might be easier for you because you're reflecting back on your father's achievements, and you probably had lots of time, a few years, a decade and a bit, to think about this. So, what do you think was Donald Love's greatest, most significant achievement?
I think that many would look and say that Don Love's legacy and his achievement is the buildings and the cities that he touched around North America. But if he was sitting here tonight, he'd say his greatest achievement is the people that he had the opportunity to work for and that came to work with him and moved on to do very interesting things. And I mean, tonight I just want to have a shout out to the almost 25 alumni that are here tonight from the 70s and the 80s, people that worked with my father and have come from all over North America. So they're clustered here in the front, and I must tell you, I must tell you, in addition to my brother and sister and our spouses, that we are honored to have them do this, and it's a tribute to my father because he really generated leaders, and he had a great knack to identify attitude and not focus on the skills in place. Because he said, I can teach you that, or you can go learn it if you got the right attitude. And he was great at selecting that. And many great leaders in our industry around the country, and in fact North America, worked with Oxford and were great contributors. So,
Very good answer. Thanks, John. Next question is about something that what this evening is all about is mentorship, giving advice to the aspiring entrepreneurs that are here today. And I want to start with you, Jerry, because I think, believe it or not, Jerry and I have something very strong in common. We both at one time worked for Dr. Allard. Obviously, he gave you better advice than he gave me. I'm just saying, but and he gave me a lot of great advice. But it was mostly like, "Hey Tim, maybe you should lose a little weight," things like that every once in a while. After all, I'm a doctor. He did tell me that once, but he was a great friend and an incredible man to work for and work with, and with the Allard family afterwards. They've been a big part of my life and my career. But Jerry, when you look at the young people that are out here on the stage today and that are in our audience, and we're so inspired by seeing all of them here, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to them if you had a chance to address them, which you do right now?
He always said that be honest, be open. Don't give me the news that it's always is happy news. I'll take it if it's even bad news. But don't lie to me, just come and tell me. But I'll tell you one more thing though. He always said to me, he says, don't buy the land without go around, look at the land, and then if you're able to walk on the land, do it. So one day I went with him to look at the land, and he says, so we're going to walk up to there. I said, okay, that's fine. So we went there, and then from there to there to from there. It was about 10,000 acres, and by the time we were all done, I was not in the shape to go ahead after that. So that's the biggest advice. He said, don't buy the land without walking on it.
I like that. That is awesome. John, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit because when you talk about the great piece of advice, I want to ask you about what do you think the great piece of advice that your father would give an aspiring entrepreneur if he was here, and maybe some advice he gave you, perhaps. And I'm sure he gave you a little bit from time to time.
Actually, my father moved the needle a lot for me. So, I'll offer the same advice that he gave me. 3 things. Number 1, values. And, he was hardcore on respect, humility, honesty, integrity, hardcore set of values. And, he would never compromise his value standard. Second was relationships. And, relationships are not just trying to build a relationship with a customer. It's everyone you interact with, because you never know who's going up the escalator when you're going down or the other way around. And, he built great long-term relationships, and that's a secret to building a great business. And the third was, dare to dream. But never forget that a dream is just a dream without hard work.
Excellent. That's good advice. Tony, I know you kind of do this for a living now these days. You're involved in a lot of mentorship programs, so probably hard to isolate one piece, but maybe one or two that you'd pass along to the young people that you met here tonight.
Well, I think John mentioned some of the ones that I tend to use as well. Values are important, and doing passion and so forth. And quite honestly, what you hear a lot is people say, find something you're passionate about and stick with it, which I think is important. But the last one that John mentioned about hard work is really one that I emphasize, because, you always have to kind of work harder than the other person. It's good to be passionate. It's good to do something that you love. But at the end of the day, it's about hard work. And the way I kind of explain hard work, it's about, it's really the execution on what you do. You know, a lot of people like to focus on the strategy and the big picture because it's more fun to do. The hard part is the detail, the hard work, and the execution. And when we were going through our evolution, the way we presented it was that, you know, a simple plan executed brilliantly is better than a brilliant plan executed poorly. And really what it means is that to execute well, you have to work really hard and work harder than the other guy and really focus on the execution side.
Excellent. Very good answer. Thanks, Tony. Victor, I know this is a big part of your life now, working with young people, and you talked about the programs you brought to Masqueets and everything. So for those young people you're working with, what would be one piece of advice or one or two pieces of advice that you would pass on to them, the aspiring entrepreneurs that you're working with?
When I talk to young people, I talk to them about goal setting goals. And I wish I'd learned that trick a long time ago, because I write down all my goals, and I have a book, all the goals I have accomplished so far. And unless you know where you're going, you know, it's very difficult to reach what you're trying to do. But I'm a survivor of the residential school. And I went through the process of what happened to us at residential school, and I never took part on the Truth and Reconciliation hearings. But I went to residential school full time. Even when the kids were gone, I used to stay at the school by myself. And but one thing I learned, you know, despite all the bad things of the residential school, I learned a lot of good things. Like the first thing I know is the leadership, being able to lead what you're doing. It only takes little things to do. People that don't want to do it, and you take one step forward, and you're already ahead of everybody. That's all, just little things like that with leadership. But if one word, if I had to tell you, is discipline, and they mention all of it. Discipline. That's the key to everything. Hard work and all the things. Getting up in the morning and going to work and sticking with it and doing what you have to do. Discipline.
That's great advice. Thank you very much for that. I was just thinking, you know, the one piece of advice my father gave me about business and working at a company and managing people, he always said, kill them with kindness. Now, he never did that, but he sure preached it. It was one of those things. So I learned a lot from that. You know, do as I do, not as I say, that kind of thing. But we look at these gentlemen here today and the other laureates that we recognized earlier tonight. We're talking about the pillars of our community, what I would call the rock stars and heroes of our community, not just our business community, but our community in northern Alberta and across Alberta. So I want to ask all of you a bit about community engagement and what you think it's meant for your business and your business career. And I'll start with you, Tony, because you've been deeply, deeply involved in the community here.
Well, you know, and I think it's been stated many times before that, you know, values and what you give back, and it's not just about what you take in a community, it's being able to give back. And I think it's reflective of, you know, the not only the relationship with the community, but it's the relationship with your employees, your clients, all the other relationships that you have. And I think you do a lot more by actions than you do by sort of saying things. So, and I strongly believe in like when you're in a particular community that you support each other, and you know what we're talking about evacuation right now, it's just everybody coming together. And it's the same thing with you know, as a company, as a business, as individuals. We've all been fortunate, you know, to be in the situations that we are, and ensuring that in families, companies, and so forth, share those values, pass them on to everyone that's involved with you is very important. And I think it pays off in the end. One of the things just that is really important, and it came out today when we saw all the students with their programs, and there were about 30 different programs, and every single program had a social responsibility component to it, if you will. So whether it was that they donate a portion of the profits, everything was socially responsible. And I think that's really what the world is about. And those who understand that know that that's important going forward.
Excellent answer. Thanks, Tony. Jerry, I know with your family and the community involvement, the community role, the community engagement has been so important to the children, your children here. You've talked about them, and I know how involved they are. So why is it important? Why is it important to your business, to Cameron Development?
Well, I came to this country only with $387 in my pocket. This community, this city, this country has been really good to me. So we have to give them back. And we had made the decision that each of my child will have different charity. So we have right now about 4 charities which we sponsor every year. And like I said, we have to give it back to the community.
Thanks very much. And the Naqvi family should be saluted for their involvement. John, and your family and your dad, and what did he tell you about community involvement, community engagement, and why it was important to Oxford?
Well, I think in the broader sense, the community engagement is all sorts of levels that reflect relationships and values and being true to yourself, both as a citizen as well as a corporation. And, my father in Oxford walked the talk and was quite sensitive on the development side and working with various stakeholders, but also as a business, working with the various stakeholders, whether it's tenant customers or suppliers or others, in building that kind of community, and always invested back in other things that would help others that perhaps couldn't help themselves. I mean, right now, this Fort McMurray situation is obviously very distressing for everybody in the room, and is something that we all should be mindful of and thinking of.
Very excellent point. Thanks very much, Sean. And Victor, community engagement, I think when I look at the businesses you've been involved in, the startups and what you're doing now, the community engagement has just been a key behind it. It's been such an important part. Why have you made that such a focus? Why is it important for you?
Can you repeat it again? I have a hard time hearing.
Oh, sorry about that. My mic went down for just a second. Talking about community engagement and why it's important to the businesses you've been involved in, Peace Hills Trust and others. Why is the community role so important to you to make that a part of what you guys are doing?
Thank you. Well, without the community, it's pretty hard to do anything. It's you get their blessings or you get their curse. So try and get the blessings, because once I've seen it happen in our community where we talked and we eventually came up with some solutions. That, to me, that's very important.
Excellent, Victor. Thanks very much. One final question. It's going to be the question with the 10-second answer, because we've run out of time, and you'll love it that I'm only giving you 10 seconds for this one. Social media and your business, love it or hate it. John?
Learning it, and we'll be loving it.
Okay, that's good. Tony?
Well, this is something for the younger generation, but you absolutely have to love it. It's the reality of today, so.
Jerry, I haven't seen you on Facebook yet, Jerry. I don't know. Maybe I'm not a Facebook friend. Love it or hate it?
You can't escape that. You got to love them.
Okay. Victor, the last word. Social media. What do you think about it?
That's the new generation. Things are happening.
So when you say that's the new generation, you're not getting in that boat?
No, I used to work at Canadian Celanese, and we had our mainframe in Montreal. It was the size of this building.
I got you. Gentlemen, excellent answers. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for this. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your kind attention. And I think we're turning things back over to my good friend Jared. Where are you, Jared? Come on up, buddy.
You're fantastic. Well done, Tim. Volunteer moderator. That was outstanding. And thanks again to our inductees. Another round of applause.